The wind tasted of sea salt as Amelia stepped out of her rusty sedan, the distant sound of waves, a low hum in the background. The sleepy coastal town of Evermere seemed suspended in time. Whitewashed cottages with peeling shutters, tangled gardens, and sun-dappled roads winding toward the ocean. She hugged her sketchbook to her chest and tried not to think of the city she'd left behind. The memories still sharp as glass. Her new apartment stood atop an old tea house, its walls the color of sun-bleached shells. The landlady, Mrs. Hanley, handed over the keys. "You'll like it here, dear," she said, her voice both gentle and knowing. "It's quiet, but good for thinking or forgetting." Amelia smiled politely, saying nothing about the ache in her chest. Inside, the apartment was cozy but worn, sunlight pooling on faded floorboards. She lingered near the window, watching a gull wheel across the sky before exploring her new home. She traced her fingers along the dusty bookshelves, inhaled the faint scent of lavender from a half-empty vase, and opened drawers as if searching for a piece of herself. It was while arranging her paints that she found the first letter. Tucked behind a loose brick in the living room, it was folded with careful precision and bound with a thin piece of green string. The paper was soft, ink faded, the words inside trembling with vulnerability. "To whoever finds this, some sunsets speak in colors the heart remembers. Today, I watched the sky turn gold and wondered if you too were watching. If you're lonely, know you're not alone in it. Yours always." Amelia's pulse quickened. She read the letter again and again, struck by the longing in its lines. All at once, her heart, cracked and tender from old hurts, stirred with curiosity. Who wrote these words, and who were they written for? That evening, unable to sleep, she returned to the brick, searching for more. The night closed around her, the letter resting on her pillow. For the first time in months, Amelia felt something new, a flicker of hope, delicate as the sunset itself. Morning crept gently through the curtains, painting Amelia's apartment in honeyed light. The memory of the letter haunted her dreams, those lines about sunsets and longing replaying again and again. With a new sketchbook tucked under her arm and the letter folded in her pocket, she made her way downstairs, hoping the sea air would clear her head. The town was waking. Fishermen loaded their nets, shopkeepers swept doorways, and the air teemed with the promise of small beginnings. A bell chimed softly as Amelia entered the town's petite library, a centuries-old stone building with stained glass windows and shelves packed tight with forgotten treasures. Behind the desk stood Elijah, the town librarian, sorting a stack of yellowing novels. His hair tumbled into his eyes, and his sweater bore flecks of chalk, as if he'd come straight from some scholarly daydream. He offered a shy, kind smile. "Good morning. Need help finding something?" Amelia hesitated. "I just moved in upstairs, above the tea house. I found something odd in my apartment." She slipped him the folded letter, her voice hushed as though someone else in the world might overhear. Elijah unfolded it with careful fingers, his brows knitting. "These old buildings have their share of secrets," he mused. "You're not the first to find one." Amelia's eyes widened. "There are more letters?" He nodded shyly. "There are stories around town. People finding notes in books, drawers, even hidden in the library stacks. But no one's ever known who wrote them. They stood in companionable silence, the library's quiet wrapping around them like a warm scarf. Amelia, emboldened by Elijah's gentle presence, ventured, "Maybe we could try to find the rest? Together?" Elijah studied her, something cautious and hopeful flickering in his gaze. "I'd like that." At that moment, the noon sun poured through the stained glass, scattering colored light across their faces. Amelia's worry softening, Elijah's smile deepening. The first time since moving to Evermere, Amelia didn't feel quite so alone. Another letter might be waiting. And perhaps, she thought, so was something more she hadn't dared to hope for. The library door closed softly behind Amelia and Elijah as they stepped out into the salty afternoon breeze. They walked side by side along the cobbled path toward her apartment, the letter fluttering between them like a secret dare. "Do you remember the first note found here?" Amelia asked, curious. Elijah thought for a moment, a faint smile curling on his lips. "Not exactly, but I do remember a summer, years ago, when Mrs. Handley found one tucked behind a bookshelf. It made her cry, though she never said why." Amelia glanced at him, noticing the way the light played along his jaw, giving him a thoughtful, almost luminous look. "Have you ever found one yourself?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Once. It was in an old poetry anthology. The words were simple, but it felt like someone had written straight to my heart." Upstairs in her apartment, they searched methodically, peering behind loose floorboards, beneath the faded mantel, even inside the antique wardrobe. It was Elijah who found the second letter, hidden within the pages of a forgotten paperback on the windowsill. He read aloud, voice gentle and trembling. "Sometimes I think love is an echo, almost lost, but still returning quietly each day. Has someone ever felt that for you? Have you ever felt that for someone else? Share your shadows with the light." A hush fell between them. Amelia's breath caught, the vulnerability of the letter washing over her. All her recent heartbreak shimmered at the edge of her mind, yet something softer, something new, nestled there too. "Maybe we should leave a reply," Elijah suggested. "See what happens." Amelia looked at him, uncertainty warring with courage. "Would you help me?" He nodded, and together they knelt on the living room rug, crafting a simple note in Amelia's elegant hand. "To the author lost and found, your words are a quiet comfort. If you are still listening, your echoes have reached us." They tucked it back with the letter, sealed beneath a fresh slip of green string. As twilight fell, they sat together in companionable silence, a new connection evident in small glances and easy laughter. Sometimes the heart could begin again, one step, one sunset, and one letter at a time. Soft drizzle painted the sidewalk silver the next morning. Amelia bundled herself in a knitted shawl and headed to the tea house for pastries and warmth, barely resisting the urge to check for a reply to their letter. The aroma of cardamom and tea greeted her, and as she settled by the window, she spotted Elijah arriving with a familiar, hopeful air. He carried a slim book, a local history, its pages dog-eared and worn. Sliding into the chair opposite her, Elijah looked around, lowered his voice conspiratorially, and said, "There's something you should see." Between sips of steamy Earl Grey, they pored over a faded black and white photograph inside the book. In it, a woman smiled against the backdrop of the same apartment building Amelia now called home. Scrawled beneath was a date from 30 years ago, along with the name, Evelyn Danforth. "Think she could be the author?" Amelia asked, touching the page. "Maybe," Elijah said, eyes reflecting the rain-streaked glass. "Or maybe she was the recipient." Clutching the book, Amelia hurried with Elijah through the drizzle, hearts racing with the possibility of a breakthrough. Back in her apartment, she pressed her fingers to the loose brick. But there was nothing new. Disappointment threatened, but Elijah gently squeezed her shoulder. "Let's try the library. Maybe one of the oldest journals or guest books has something." The library was hushed and golden, the storm outside making it even cozier. The two spent hours leafing through dusty records, finding scribbles of poetry in library margins, one unmistakably in the same handwriting as the letters. Evening settled in, casting the seaside town in violet and gold. Tucked in a forgotten ledger from the 1990s, Elijah found a third letter, this one a little more daring. "Have you ever felt the rush of loving someone you've never met? I write to the night, hoping a heartbeat might answer. If you're there, send me a sign, something small and soft as dawn. Yours, always." A warmth bloomed in Amelia's chest. That night, as rain tapped at the windows, she and Elijah left a poem in answer, something raw and honest about hope, longing, and late-night dreams. As she handed the note to Elijah to tuck into the ledger, his fingers lingered, and their eyes met, a silent promise that whatever mysteries they found, they wouldn't journey alone. Spring swept over Evermere with a gentle hand, wildflowers blooming along quiet lanes, songbirds cradled in the pines. Amelia grew comfortable in the slow rhythm of town life, discovering how the ocean's moods inspired her art. But it was the search for the mysterious author and her growing closeness to Elijah that colored her days with new meaning. On a lazy Sunday, Elijah invited Amelia to help catalog donations at the library. They worked side by side, laughter echoing between dust motes. As Amelia dusted off the spine of a battered travel journal, a folded envelope slipped out, landing at her feet. "Another one!" Elijah grinned, eyes bright. They unfolded it together. This letter was different, short, urgent, almost trembling. "Some say you can't miss what you've never had, but I miss you, stranger. I miss our impossible talks. If you're reading this, tell me, do you believe hearts can find each other in the dark? Yours, always." Amelia's heart ached with the rawness of the words. She glanced at Elijah, searching his face for an answer. He met her gaze, vulnerable and unguarded. "I think two hearts can," he said softly. They wrote a reply, braver now. "Yes, we believe it. Sometimes darkness helps us see what matters. The light in another's eyes, or hope in a shared story. We're listening. We're here." That evening, they walked along the cliffs as the sky set the water ablaze with color. Elijah took a hesitant breath. "I never planned to let someone in again," he admitted. "Not after last time." Amelia nodded, feeling the truth of his confession resonate with her own. "Me neither," she whispered. "But maybe we aren't supposed to do this alone." A comfortable quiet fell between them, broken only by the sea. As they watched the last light dip below the horizon, it wasn't just the mystery of the letters binding them. It was the slow, steady spark of something real, something worth holding on to. Early June brought a festival to Evermere, the annual Sea Lantern Parade. Strings of lanterns swayed between rooftops, glowing like a necklace of tiny moons. The whole town buzzed with anticipation, and even Amelia, who often preferred quiet corners, felt the excitement in the air as she watched children dash past, faces painted in swirling blues and golds. Elijah found her in the crowd, a gentle smile hidden beneath his nerves. Could we watch the lanterns launch together? Amelia's cheeks warmed, and she nodded. They joined the procession, weaving through neighbors and laughter, their shoulders brushing every so often in ways that felt both electric and familiar. As darkness fell, lanterns were released from the cliffs and drifted out to sea, haloed in soft light. Amelia leaned against the wind, her hand accidentally finding Elijah's. Neither of them let go. Over the sound of the waves and music, Elijah said, "I've been thinking about the photo, the woman, Evelyn Banforth. My grandfather used to mention her around the shop. He said she was waiting for someone she loved to return. Maybe the letters are part of their story." Amelia's heart thudded with possibility. "Do you think someone in town might know more?" Elijah considered. "There's Mrs. Coombs at the antique store. She knows every history in Evermere. Maybe she remembers Evelyn and who she was waiting for." Spurred by new purpose, they slipped away from the parade and wandered to the tiny, treasure-filled shop. Mrs. Coombs, all silver curls and twinkling eyes, greeted them kindly. "What are you two after on a night like this?" Elijah explained, mentioning the letters and Evelyn's name. The old woman's expression grew wistful. "Oh, those letters! I haven't heard about them in years. Evelyn Danforth, she was a dreamer. She fell in love with a sailor named Samuel. He wrote her every week, even after he left. But sometimes letters were never meant to arrive. Sometimes they're left behind." A hush settled over the shop. Amelia squeezed Elijah's hand, feeling the bittersweet ache of lost love, but also the flicker of hope in hidden words found anew. As they walked home under the lantern-lit sky, Amelia realized something had shifted. The mystery remained unsolved, but she no longer sought answers only for herself. She wanted to uncover everything, with Elijah hand in hand, whatever bittersweet truths awaited them. A few days later, Amelia found herself painting by the window, sunlight shimmering on her canvas. Ever since Mrs. Coombs had shared Evelyn and Samuel's story, the letters felt more alive, more like voices calling through time. Elijah arrived, arms full of books and curiosity, eager to continue their search. "I went through the archives again," he said, spreading old town newspapers across the table. "Look at this, an article from 1994. It mentions a memorial for Samuel at the docks. He was lost at sea, but it says Evelyn still wrote letters every week." Amelia touched the photo of Evelyn, standing by the pier, her face radiant with hope. Maybe the letters didn't just wait in hiding. They were a way to keep loving, even after goodbye. Together, they returned to the spot mentioned in the article. The old pier creaked beneath their steps, wind tangling Amelia's hair. They searched, following a hunch, until Elijah spotted a rusted tin box tucked behind a loose plank. Amelia's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were 3 more letters, preserved by time and longing. They read the first aloud. I watch the tide and wait for a sign. Your ship, your laughter, your hand in mine. But love, even in silence, never leaves. I live for the hope of your return. Both grew quiet, letting the words settle in their hearts. The tide splashed close by, a living echo of past heartbreak. Amelia tucked one of their own replies into the box, writing, Your hope is still felt. Your words carry across time and hearts, reminding us that even lost things have the power to heal. Thank you for believing. They sat on the pier until sunset, dangling their feet above the water. The golden light melted away the chill in the air and in their hearts. Elijah turned to her, his voice gentle but sure. I like to think Samuel found his way home, one way or another, and that Evelyn's love helped him, even if she couldn't see it. Amelia nodded, smiling softly. Maybe we all find our way by holding on to hope through the darkness until the dawn. Their fingers intertwined, a silent vow passing between them, as the waves whispered promises the night would keep. Days grew warmer. Sea lavender bloomed, painting the dunes in delicate purple, as the story of Evelyn and Samuel lingered between Amelia and Elijah, an invisible thread pulling them closer together. At the library, they had become a familiar sight, heads bent in quiet fascination, laughter buzzing between stacks, fingers brushing as they searched for more hidden notes. One evening, as a storm gathered over Evermere, Amelia spotted Elijah waiting on her doorstep, a nervous energy about him. He held out a tattered envelope. Found behind a loose board in the reading room, he said quietly. His blue eyes storm bright. I thought we should open it together. They sat on the floor, rain lashing the windows, as Amelia carefully unfolded the letter. This one was different, addressed for the first time. To Evelyn, with all my heart. If I am lost, know you are my anchor. If I never return, let these words be my light back to you. I love you beyond the ends of the earth, and if there's another shore, I will find you there. Never stop hoping. Samuel. The silence in the room was heavy and full. Amelia pressed a hand to her chest, blinking away tears. Beside her, Elijah traced the spidery signature on the page. They never had a chance to say goodbye, he whispered, but he still found a way to reassure her. Amelia nodded, the old ache of her own heartbreak mixing with something deeper, gratitude for love extended past its ending. Maybe we write a goodbye for them, a letter to honor their hope. By candlelight, they penned their most heartfelt reply, blending both their hands in ink. To Evelyn and Samuel, thank you for leaving your story in these walls and tide-marked pages. You've reminded us that love, no matter how hidden or far-flung, has a way of shining through. May you be together in every sunset, every echo of the sea. Lightning illuminated their faces, and in its afterglow, Elijah reached for her hand. Amelia, do you think it's possible what they had, that there's someone meant for us after all? She gazed at him, her heart wide open. I do. Or maybe we simply choose each other, again and again, even through storms. Their hands twined, and for the first time, Amelia let go of old hurt, feeling hope settle in its place like dawn after a long night. Summer stretched golden and long over Evermere. Word had quietly spread about the letters, and locals began leaving little notes of their own. Poems, wishes, remembrances, hidden for others to discover. The town teemed with stories, and everywhere Amelia and Elijah went, they caught glimpses of smiles and hope sketched into the day-to-day world. Amelia's apartment windowsill overflowed with sketches and new letters. She painted sunsets vibrant with new meaning, her brush guided by the memory of the love story she and Elijah had uncovered, and the gentle, steady joy budding between them. One evening, as the tide receded and laughter drifted from the beach bonfires, Elijah took Amelia's hand and led her to the old pier. The box beneath the board remained, but tonight he had something extra tucked in his pocket. A letter sealed with a small wax heart. He handed it to her, voice low. "I know we came here searching for someone else's story, but somewhere along the way, I found our own." Amelia opened it, her breath catching as she read. "To the one who made the shadows ease, you taught me that healing isn't about forgetting, but about letting new light in. I hope, with every sunset, you'll let me write the next chapters with you. One letter at a time, for as long as you'll have me. Elijah." She blinked back tears, smiling through the shimmer of gold left on the sea. "I never thought I'd find this again," she whispered. "A reason to open my heart." The sky flared with color, and the hush between them was full of promise. They tucked Elijah's letter in the tin box, alongside the final one for Evelyn and Samuel, binding their own hopes with a ribbon of green string, the same gentle mark that had first told Amelia she was not alone. As night fell, they sat at the end of the pier, feet dangling above the deep blue. Moonlight caught on Amelia's necklace and on Elijah's hopeful smile. There were still mysteries in Evermere, questions about those first letters they might never answer. But as Elijah leaned in, a hesitant, sweet kiss beneath the stars, Amelia realized some stories were meant to be discovered slowly, together, one chapter and one sunset at a time. The end felt near, but in her heart, Amelia sensed something new beginning, something lasting. The seasons began to turn, and with the fading of summer came a gentle settling, a sense, in the rhythm of the waves and the hush of the wind, that the story of the sunset letters had woven itself through more than just the lives of Amelia and Elijah. It had bloomed quietly, much like the wildflowers scattering the dunes, touching the hearts of the town in ways both seen and unseen. Amelia found herself welcomed into Evermere's embrace. Though she and Elijah continued to search for new letters, now their joy was as much in the discovering as in the sharing. She taught painting to children at the tea house, and sometimes, after classes, she'd spot a secret smile or catch the corner of a hidden note tucked between pages of well-loved books at the library. The spirit of the letters lived on, hopeful and generous, connecting strangers and friends alike. On the eve of the first autumn storm, Elijah surprised Amelia by leading her to the water's edge. Lanterns floated on the bay, echoing that night not so long ago when everything had changed. He reached for her hand, and they walked in silence, pausing where the sand met the waves. "Do you ever think about Samuel and Evelyn?" Elijah asked, his thumb brushing over hers. "How their words reached us, changed us, even though we never met them?" Amelia smiled. "I do, and I think maybe it was never about solving the mystery completely. Maybe it was about learning to let love find us, bit by bit." Elijah slipped a letter into her palm, a fresh one, this time written in his neat, careful hand. She read, "To the artist who brought color back into my life, thank you for every moment, every note left in sunlight and shadow. I don't want this to be the last letter. Let's write the rest of our story together, sunset after sunset, with no goodbyes. Yours, Elijah." Tears glistened in Amelia's eyes, but they were born of joy. She pressed her own reply into his hand, a small, painted card bearing her favorite sunset and 3 simple words, "I choose you." The wind carried the promise of rain, but Amelia did not feel cold. She leaned into Elijah, knowing that whatever storms might come, they had built something lasting, something real, crafted from hope, longing, and the courage to begin again. Their laughter joined the waves, their future unwritten, but full of light. Around them, Evermere continued to whisper with secrets and stories. But for Amelia and Elijah, the greatest mystery had already been unraveled. That love, once found, could make any place, any sunset, a home.